Over the years, every file share and cloud drive quietly accumulates permissions that nobody tracks. A folder shared temporarily with a whole department, access granted for a project that ended, and inherited permission 3 folders up that nobody even realizes applies. The result is uncomfortable and almost invisible. Far more people can read sensitive data than anyone ever intended. And because no one is watching, it stays that way, growing worse with every temporary share that quietly becomes permanent. Data access governance is the discipline of answering continuously one question: who can access what, why, and should they still? It turns a silent sprawl into something you can actually see, measure, and steadily bring back under control. It has to start with the data itself. You cannot govern access to data you have not first identified as sensitive, so step 1 is discovery and classification, finding where the personal records, financial data, and secrets actually live. And they are never only in the obvious place. Sensitive data leaks into old exports, shared drives, and forgotten folders, so classification has to sweep widely because a governance program that only watches the official database misses most of the risk. The second hard step is mapping the effective permissions, and it is genuinely difficult. Real access is a tangle of direct grants, nested group memberships, and inheritance flowing down from parent folders, all combining into who can truly read a file. So the true answer to who can read this file is not a setting you look up. It is a plain list of human beings, computed by resolving that entire tangle into actual names, which is exactly the work governance tools exist to do. So let us follow a sensitive folder from discovery, through the map of who can really reach it, to the 2 problems that always surface, and then into the ongoing loop that keeps access honest instead of letting it silently sprawl again. Take 1. Before touching permissions, the program scans the estate to find and classify sensitive data, tagging where the personal, financial, and confidential material lives. Only once you know what is sensitive can you sensibly ask who can reach it. Next, it maps the effective permissions on that sensitive data. This means resolving every direct grant, every group a person belongs to, every group nested inside those groups, and every permission inherited from folders above into one clear picture. The first problem it surfaces is overbroad access, a genuinely sensitive folder that turns out to be readable by a group like everyone or by a whole department that only ever needed one file. Far too many people hold the keys. The second is stale access, someone who changed roles months ago or finished a project but quietly kept the rights they no longer need. Their access no longer matches who they are, and nobody ever went back to take it away. Now the governance loop that fixes it. The heart is the access review, and the crucial detail is who runs it. The data owner, the business person who understands the content, not IT, periodically recertifies who should have access and revokes the rest. Alongside reviews, the program hunts unused permissions. If someone has had access to a sensitive folder for a year and has never once opened it, that access is pure risk with no benefit whatsoever, and it is an easy, safe thing to remove. The direction of travel is least privilege. Every person able to reach only what their role genuinely needs and nothing beyond it. That is the target the reviews and the unused access cleanup are steadily pulling the whole environment toward. The lasting fix ties access to role. When someone joins, moves, or leaves, their access should adjust automatically, rather than permissions being bolted on for each new need and never removed, which is precisely the creep that caused the mess. Now the honest part, and it is uncomfortable. This is mostly a people and process problem wearing a technical hat. The tools can surface the mess brilliantly, but someone who understands the business must decide what correct actually looks like. And the hardest human obstacle is that revoking access breaks things. So owners hoard permissions to be safe, granting broadly and removing nothing, which is exactly the creep that must be fought, one that no scanner can win on its own. Which is why the reviews must be made easy and routine, not an annual ordeal. Small, frequent, owner-friendly recertifications catch drift early, while a giant once-a-year review is so painful that people rubber stamp it and nothing actually improves. The payoff is real and measurable. Every overbroad share tightened and every stale write removed shrinks the blast radius of the next breach, because an attacker who steals one account can only reach what that account was genuinely entitled to. So the principle to leave with is simple. Unowned, unreviewed access is how a small breach becomes a huge one. Knowing precisely who can read what is not paperwork, it is the prerequisite for ever actually protecting the data. Effective permission mapping is the technically hardest part because the same person can gain access by several independent paths at once. A tool must merge all of them, or it will confidently report that someone lacks access they in fact quietly hold. Classification increasingly leans on pattern matching and machine learning to spot sensitive content by its shape, a card number, a national identifier, a medical term, because relying on humans to label every file correctly has never once worked at scale. Unused access detection needs access logging to be switched on and retained, because you can only prove a permission is unused if you have a real record of every time the data was, and was not, actually touched over a meaningful stretch of time. Data access governance sits beside identity governance. Identity decides who a person is and what role they hold, while this decides what that role may reach in the data, and the two only work well when they are wired together rather than run in isolation. So the whole picture: discover and classify the sensitive data, map who can truly read it through the tangle of grants and groups, fix overbroad and stale access, and run an owner-driven review loop that ties access to role and pushes toward least privilege. Thanks for watching. Next time a folder is shared just for now, remember that now has a way of lasting years and that knowing who can read what is the quiet foundation of keeping it safe. Follow how it all runs for more. See you in the next one.